So over the next few videos we're going to have a look at how the early church fathers wrestled with the whole idea of Jesus. Who is Jesus and how are we to describe him and approach him? The church had this general sense in the beginning that Jesus was God, or was at least very much like God. Jesus was prayed to, was worshipped, and was often affirmed as divine. But the church had never quite really anchored that into its deepest convictions. So this is where the heretics actually become really helpful. One of the heretics in particular, Arius, really shines at this point. Now he was a churchman and he was a staunch monotheist, so he believed that there is only one God, which truly there is. So he understands the Jewish faith and the Christian church growing out of the Jewish heritage, which is that there is only one true God. And so in order for him to hold to this fully, he would agree that the Father absolutely is God, but then when it comes to Jesus, he would say, no, we can only have one God, and that God is the Father. So Jesus is somewhat like God. He is maybe even divine with a small d, but not a capital D. He is the firstborn over all creation. He is preeminent over all things, and yet is not fully God. And one of Arius' important statements is that there was a time when Jesus was not. So he gives Jesus an exalted status, but stops short of affirming that Jesus is truly God. So Arius was a remarkable communicator and a very influential bishop, and he had this theology that was becoming really popular. So on the political scene there was the emperor Constantine, who was a fairly new Christian, smart political leader. He wanted peace in his empire, and he knew that one of the ways to keep peace in his empire was to keep peace in the church. And he could sense there was rumblings with theology and doctrine, because Arius was preaching one thing and it seemed that everybody else was preaching something a bit different. So he calls a council, and it's the Council of Nicaea in 325. And the subject on the table was Jesus. Who is Jesus? What is Jesus? So Arius presented his case, and then the other bishops responded, and in particular Athanasius presented his case that no, Jesus is truly God. He is one with the Father, and that there is this profound mystery whereby Jesus actually is truly God, as the Father is God, indeed as the Holy Spirit is God. So Athanasius presents his case that there is only, yes, one God, and yet this God is in three, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, really inviting us into this Trinitarian mystery. Athanasius presents this. The bishops, who are theologically very astute and very disciplined thinkers, agree with Athanasius and say, yes, this has the integrity of the scriptures and the authenticity of the gospel written through it, and so Jesus was affirmed as being fully and truly divine according to the scriptures, and Arius, unfortunate for him, was branded a heretic and evicted. So out of that comes the Nicene Creed. In my mind, it is probably the singular most important Christian document outside of the scriptures themselves. And in affirming Jesus to be God, there are some very specific phrases that are used. It says Jesus is God of God, light of light, very God of very God. And then there's this phrase, of the same substance as the Father. The Latin word is homoousios. And so this word homoousios became the landmark branding, you could say, of orthodox doctrine when it comes to the identity of Jesus. Who is Jesus? He is homoousios. He has the same substance as the Father. He is as the same thing as the Father. Whatever God is, Jesus is that too. And so the full and true divinity of Jesus was forever bolted down into the bedrock foundations of Christian doctrine at the Council of Nicaea in 325, where it is absolutely affirmed that Jesus is God, that he is uncreated, that he is, we're told, begotten of the Father, but he is not born of the Father. So begotten meaning that as much as and as far as the Father has forever existed, so also the Son has forever existed as Son of the Father. So they got quite technical, but they also wanted to be precise, so there was no ambiguity about the fact that Jesus is fully and absolutely and truly God, as the Father is fully and truly and absolutely God, as also the Spirit is fully and truly and absolutely God. So the early church had to wrestle with this and had profoundly important theological conversations to try and articulate as best they can who is and what is Jesus. And so his divinity, being fully divine, it really gives us the true North Star of the identity of Jesus. Over the next few videos we're going to consider some other aspects of this. So if this is the North Star, we're going to consider the south point of the diamond, the full humanity of Jesus, because that's something that came up in debate shortly after the Council of Nicaea as well, actually. So articulating these things accurately and being as specific as we can is profoundly important to protect us from false doctrines and bad theology, but also to give us accuracy and confidence when we approach Jesus in prayer, when we consider God's life, when we serve and worship and follow. So we'll keep discovering these things together. Until next time, peace.